Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Just not true. Those are the words of the director of the Military Research Centre at Porton Down to Russia's suggestion the facility was the source of the poison that's left a former Russian spy and his daughter in a critical condition. Scientists at the Chemical Defence Unit have been analysing samples taken after the attack in Salisbury on Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia. Our security correspondent Gordon Carrera has been given exclusive access to Porton Down and has just sent this report.
It is one of the most sensitive and secret sites in the country. Porton Down, home to the Defence Science and Technology Lab, and now at the heart of the Salisbury poisoning investigation. Inside one of the labs, scientists demonstrated to us one of the many ways used to detect the presence of chemical agents.
A call came here to Porton Down in the early hours of Monday, March 5th. And within hours, a specialist response team was deployed down the road to Salisbury. They collected samples which were brought back to labs here at the site and which identified a military-grade nerve agent.
Based on that, as well as other information, the government has said it's highly likely that Russia was responsible for poisoning Sergei and Yulia Skripal. Security at Porton Down is tight. Russian diplomats have raised questions as to whether somehow nerve agent from here could have got out. That's something officials say is impossible.
You know, we've got the highest levels of controls of security around the work that we do here. We would not be allowed to operate if we had lack of control that could result in anything leaving the four walls of our facility here. So, you know, we've got complete confidence that there's nothing that could have come from here out into the wider world, as it were.
And so, it's frustrating when you hear that kind of accusation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a coincidence that it's down the road that this has happened. It's very frustrating to hear that because everyone here knows that's just not true.
They emphasise that their work here is purely defensive. Chemical agents are pumped into this chamber to test how well the chemical suits given to soldiers stand up. There have been allegations in Russia that a new chemical weapons factory is being built, but officials showed us the local planning application, saying what's being built here is actually going to be a facility for the analysis of explosives.
And what about the accusations there's all kind of secret chemical warfare facilities here, or being built here, I think?
Well, that's just nonsense. This is a defensive organisation, and we know that the Russians have been suggesting that certain buildings are for defence, are for making chemical warfare, and that's just complete rubbish.
This afternoon, the park bench in Salisbury, where Sergei and Yulia Skripal were found, was taken away. International inspectors from the OPCW are now taking samples from the scene. They're also working inside Porton Down itself to independently confirm its analysis, including the conclusions that point to Russian involvement. Gordon Carrera, BBC News, Porton Down.
Well, in the last hour, Public Health England have issued new advice for members of the public who are in two locations visited by Sergei and Yulia Skripal on the days surrounding the attack. Our correspondent Duncan Kennedy is in Salisbury for us now. Duncan, what are they saying?
Well, Rita, you remember that 2 weeks ago the advice from Public Health England was that for anybody who'd been in Zizi's restaurant or the Mill pub, that they should either wash their clothing, dry clean it or bag it. Well, tonight, in the past hour, that advice has hardened up. They're now saying that anybody who was in Zizi's restaurant or the Mill pub on Sunday the 4th of March or Monday the 5th of March, well, if they haven't done so already, they should wash their clothing immediately. As far as the dry cleaning is concerned, don't dry clean it. Call the council. They will send somebody over. They will take away that dry cleaning item and destroy it. And Public Health England are saying that people will be compensated for that. And their advice tonight goes on to say that while there's no immediate health risk, it is possible but unlikely that any substance which has come into contact with clothing or belongings could still be present in minute amounts and therefore contaminate your skin. So nearly 3 weeks after this incident, the advice from Public Health England continues to evolve.
Duncan, thank you. Duncan Kennedy there.
Well, here, hundreds of diners and pubgoers were given new advice by Public Health England in the wake of the Salisbury attack. The guidelines apply to anyone who was at the places where Sergei and Yulia Skripal drank and ate in the hours before their collapse. Last week, almost 500 people who had visited the pub and the restaurant concerned were told to wash clothes they were wearing at the time and double bag items that required dry cleaning. Now, 12 days later, that advice has been revised to say people with dry clean-only items should contact the police, who will destroy them. And at the same time, investigators in Salisbury removed the bench where the former spy and his daughter were found slumped almost 3 weeks ago. Officers, as you can see, covered the bench in plastic and removed it from the scene. Well, in another development, the head of the nearby Porton Down laboratory denied Russian claims that the nerve agent could have escaped from their site.
We would not be allowed to operate if we had lack of control that could result in anything leaving the four walls of our facility here. So, you know, we've got complete confidence that there's nothing that could have come from here out into the wider world, as it were.
Porton Down's Chief Executive Gary Aikenhead speaking earlier. Well, let's go live to Moscow tonight and join our correspondent Emma Murphy, who's there. And Emma, an interesting development tonight. The Russian ambassador to the UK has written a letter, we learn, to the injured Wiltshire policeman Nick Bailey. What has he said?
Yeah, well, this will be seen as a very front-foot move by the Russians. It is from the ambassador based in London, but it is a letter that comes from Moscow, no doubt. And in this letter, he's written directly to Detective Sergeant Nick Bailey. Amongst the thanks that he offered, he went on to say, "I would like to express my sincere gratitude to you for your bravery when reacting to the assault on two Russian nationals, Sergei and Yulia Skripal, who I hope will get well soon. Please be assured Russia has nothing to do with this reckless incident and is ready to cooperate with the British authorities." Now, I think the very least the response that we will get is a raised eyebrow to this, but in the offices of power that have been talking about the way that Russia has been dealing with this situation over the past few weeks, I think this will be seen very much as part of the process of denial and disinformation that they believe has been coming directly from the Kremlin. And I think particularly with Russia's near neighbours, there will be a feeling of relief that there is this united front from the EU and that there is a support against what they see as Russia's very concerted campaign here.
OK, Emma, thank you very much indeed. Well, later in the programme, we'll be reporting from Estonia, the former Soviet Baltic state, on the front line of this resurgence of old East-West tensions. That to come later.
I've been getting